Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're turning the page, close the books on this past season, look forward with great optimism to the future. First and foremost, I want to welcome our new Mystics players. And that was a great draft last night for Coach Tebow, Miss Shakira, Miss Christina. Welcome to the Monumental basketball family. We're excited about that, but I know we're here to talk about the Wizards. I really appreciate the season that just happened, to go through the fires and some of the things that we had to go through to come out on the other side with the amount of optimism we have for the future. I think was very worthy of going through it. Certainly, there's some things that you wish could have gone our way a little bit earlier, but where we're at, where we're headed to, I'm very excited. So with that, I'll take some questions.
We will start with Chase.
Hey, Tommy. Just generally, I guess, how did this season go for you comparative to expectations?
Well, I think we had high expectations going into the season, and everything kind of is dictated by staying healthy all year, and we weren't able to do that. And that's just something that you have to struggle with throughout the NBA. We're one of 30 teams. Everybody has the same narrative. Everybody says if we can stay healthy, then this could happen. And I feel like we weren't able to do that. We had some tough injuries, but I still think the people that filled those voids, invaluable playing time for certain players like Corey Kissburg, Daniel Gafford. We made a pretty big, substantial trade at deadline that brought us more talent, which is really the bottom line part of my job is talent acquisition, get this team more talent in order to get better results. And so I look at this season, Chase, it's almost like into 3 or 4 parts. We had a great start. We took on some water. We hit some COVID situations. We lost some tough games. We had some injuries. We had a trade deadline different, kind of a different direction for us. And then, the result is here we are, and we're sitting kind of a bad taste in your mouth not to be in the playoffs. But I look at the way we finished, some of the lineups we were able to look at, just gives me great encouragement for what's ahead. And one thing I can't say enough was the job that Wes and his staff did in their first year. When you bring on a new head coach, we both we had to smile about how far 18 inches really is in true life. When you slide down one seat and you become the head coach of an NBA team, totally different life. And I think he weathered the storm, had a lot of stuff thrown at him. He still managed to show he's a tremendous coach down the stretch of games, tight games. Look at our record. He did a great job with that. And, I think you learn a lot after that first year. The best thing we say about rookies, the best thing about rookies is that they get to their second year. I'd say the same thing about rookie head coaches, that you learn so much that first year that you can apply moving forward.
What about the defense specifically? So much emphasis obviously was put on that end of the floor last offseason.
Yeah.
I think needs to be fixed going into this summer.
Well, most importantly, you got to have a consistent lineup out there every single night. Someone like yourself, I know you look at numbers a lot, and we're one of only 5 teams in the league who had 2 5-man lineups play more than 75 minutes together. We never were able to put the same group out on the floor, and that's difficult. That's a tough challenge for coaches, but nobody cares. You got to get your guys out on the floor. You got to defend. We know we have to defend at a much higher level, and I think the time that we'll be able to spend this summer will be absolutely point on player development, but certainly putting in a little bit more of a defensive mindset. Part of our issue defensively this year is, like I said, availability certainly, and we just wavered a little bit on some of the things that we did early. We kind of got away from, and some of that's personnel driven. Some of that is you get in the dog days of the season. There's a lot of demand. If you're going to be a high achieving defensive team, you have to have a mindset. You have to have a lot of players that are wired that way. So we got to take a look at our roster, certainly. But I think, with Wes's acumen, his coaching staff, player development, and time together this summer, I look forward to what we're going to come back to training camp with. And defense is absolutely going to be a focus, Chase. There's no excuse for the way we were, other than we had a lot of injuries, had a lot of stuff happen that you just have to do stuff on the fly. And the results were kind of predictable when you're doing things on the fly. But again, that's something that I think we can control this summer, put in that foundation, and get a chance to come out next year and be a lot better.
Ava?
Hey, Tommy, just to ask you about another kind of off-season need that you've spoken about in the past, but with all of the different point guards that you guys got to kind of play with this year, what did that teach you about the type of kind of floor general that works best with your core guys, with KCP and Kuz, Porzingis, and Brad, of course? And then how much is that complicated, if at all, by the fact that Brad and Porzingis weren't able to play together yet?
I think one of the easiest problems that I have to solve is worrying about talent playing with talent. That works itself out. I think Bradley and KP are going to be great in the two-man game. I think both of them are creative with the ball. Both of them know how to score. Both of them have great court vision. And certainly Brad showed, in the NBA anymore, Miss Abe, I think they may even try to change the position. It's called points guard, right? A lot of guards now they're just looking to score first. And I'm traditional. I like point guards that really set the offense and really try to get everybody involved and move the ball because you see the results. I think our record this year, 28 assists or more, it was something like maybe 15-5. When we move the ball, we're pretty good. And the opportunity to look at a lot of point guards wasn't my intention this year. We thought we had starting out the season, this is the direction you're going to go, but life happens and you pivot. And so when we brought back Ish, I knew what Ish could do for this roster, especially that second unit. We had Thomas. I know Thomas was going to be a real settling force and a pretty good defensive presence, but it was going to be tremendous for Kristaps to have a former teammate to play with, the familiarity there. And selfishly, I wanted to look at Thomas one more time. He didn't play very well this season, other places he was. And I think there was an opportunity for him to help himself and help us. And so that was a good, relationship later in the season that we were able to do. And looking at all those people, I still see, I think we need somebody who's going to be a pass first point guard. I think we need to see somebody that'll be able to contain the dribble on the defensive end and help us keep people out of the paint. And those are some of the probably prerequisites we're going to be looking for. You have the draft, you have free agency, you have trades. You can claim people off waivers. There's certain ways you can build your roster. We're going to exhaust every avenue to help ourselves with that position. But I also know that, to me, you're going to have secondary playmakers now. And teams, I think really exciting teams. And we're pretty exciting when Bradley was playing the point next to some of the point guards that we had. When you have that secondary playmaker and guys that can create off the dribble for themselves, for other people, not just having one, but having multiple people on the floor gives you a whole different dimension. And that's where, I think Danny showed some progress this year in being able to be one of those type of players. His usage went up, and so did the fear factor amongst the courtside ticket holders. When the ball comes flying at him, sometimes he has some turnovers, but we'll live with that for his growth. I think Danny shows that. And Bradley, he was averaging over 6 points or 6 assists a game. So he wasn't a point guard by position, but by nature, he's a distributor as well. And I see that in Kyle. I see that with Kristaps. We have a lot of people who can get assists. So our point guard necessarily doesn't have to be somebody that's going to come and be a high-profile name or a high-profile performer. It just needs somebody to be a good fit.
And you spoke a little bit about just Wes's season, but what struck you particularly about how he kind of dealt with kind of the locker room adversity that a lot of players have spoken about, just how he guided the team through that?
I think he's always going to be calm. He's a great listener, and we keep the path, focused forward at all times. And I'm probably not breaking news to you all here, but some things you hear about, some things you don't hear about. That's every locker room in the NBA. Some things play itself out on national TV and timeouts. Some things happen that get out later after the fact. But no matter what we like to do when you have issues is solve them and keep moving forward. And you cannot live in the past. You have to learn from it and move forward. And that's something I think Wes, we preach every day. Just get better. Let's win today. Let's keep moving forward. And he did a great job with that. And I'm really proud to work with Wes and his staff. I think they really have tremendous potential for the future. This year, I'm not saying it was the third ring of hell, but it was close for some of the things that he had to face as a first-time head coach. But so did 29 other teams. And the NBA don't care. The schedule keeps coming. The games keep coming. You got to go play. So you learn. You definitely get the scars, and scars propel you forward.
Thanks, Tommy.
You're welcome.
Josh.
Tommy, how do you evaluate your team's salary cap flexibility heading into this summer and even projecting a little bit beyond that?
It's funny, Josh, we used to have in increments of 4-year plans financially, and then it gets sorted to 3. And you look at everything to try to get your team better today, and certainly with an eye towards the future. The Wizards have had cap space, twice in 20 years. It's not a cap space place. We've always been able to retain our free agents. You look at some of the high profile free agents that Washington's had in the past. We kept the ones that we wanted to keep, certainly. And I think being able to be nimble contract wise is very important. And I like we have very clean contracts. I think we have opportunities to get better through the roster building that we've done through the draft. Certainly we've made some trades. We've done some things in free agency, but my value for the cap is always going to be what makes the Wizards the best. We've had the great support of Mr. Leonsis and all of his partners and the decisions that we make. And he's been very supportive of our vision for the future. And it doesn't involve trying to slash money and get way under anytime soon. And, we're not trying to sacrifice the future with picks and trading and doing all this stuff either. We have an opportunity with our cap space, down the road, maybe that's something we'll look at. But this year, where we were able to create a deadline, we actually saved some money. We acquired draft capital, and we think we acquired a fantastic solution in Porzingis at both ends of the court. I think we're in a good place.
You just answered a question about Wes. I was wondering if you could maybe, if I can get a little bit more specific there. What did you feel like was Wes's most nimble response or best response to the adversity you faced, in terms of maybe a specific instance or series of instances?
There's so many moments that happen during a season, snapshots or whatnot that burn into your memory. And I think he handled success the same way we handled adversity, just straightforward, keep moving, be very calm. He's a meticulous person. He's actually very funny and has a great ability with players to connect. I think it's something as you learn, as you go, that maybe I should do less film and more time down in the coffee shop, more time touching players as you go forward. I think those are things that he learned, and I watch as the season unfolds that he noticed that intuitively. To really get to somebody's core, you got to spend time, and I think that's something that resonated with me. How he spends time with 1 through 15, 15 like 1. That's when you have a fantastic coach. He treats everybody the same. I think it's a remarkable ability to relate to people that Wes has. I think it's only going to get better as you move forward. And I think you don't have to have super long conversations. We just went through exit interviews. We used to budget an hour for every player and stuff. And in this day of 140 characters, you're lucky you get 2-3 minutes with a real valuable time, right? But we really shorten the time that you have somebody, but really get to the meat of what it is that where do they feel they could get better? How can we help them? How can we get better as an organization? And their input is very valuable, their insight, and you try to put all that stuff together and see places that we have holes, places that we do very well, and let's put all that together. Just my exit interviews with the players, everybody's very complimentary of Wes's knowledge of the game, his ability to convey a thought. I think everybody wants more practice time to be able to get better to the defensive end, or Chase is going to be blowing us up next year this time. I think we really saw Wes's growth as a head coach with the time that when you're on the road, and some of the tough losses that you have, the ability to get the troops back up, get everybody focused on the next game. We had some tough losses. We followed up with big wins, and that was pretty special to see.
Thank you.
Matt Paris.
Hey, Tommy, you kind of referenced it earlier with
Hey, Matt, I'm sorry to be rude, but I can't hear you.
Hey, how about now? Is that better?
A little bit better.
Okay. My headphones are not good.
You can shout, man. I get yelled at all the time. Go ahead.
So what do you think your biggest challenge is this off season, and just kind of how pivotal is this off season for you guys as a franchise?
I believe you were asking me what is our biggest
Challenge.
challenged in the off season. Thank you. Just to be patient. You can put yourself. There's going to be a buyer frenzy once you get towards the draft. There's going to be a lot of teams because there's so little money this summer in the marketplace for free agents. There's going to be a lot of teams that want to shuffle. There's going to be some teams that'll do a little bit on the side, and there's going to be some teams that are going to do complete restructuring. And to really know ahead of time what our needs are going to be, where we can fill those needs, and then being patient to get the best possible deal. That's not a challenge like I'm worried about. Those are something we embrace. This is my third season as the GM. We've made a lot of changes. We looked at a lot of players, and I feel like that's my responsibility to really keep moving on talent and try to just continue to acquire more talent. And it's a cold-blooded business sometimes. I hate that because I love players. I'm a big fan. You bring these people here, they're part of your basketball family. But at the end of the day, my job is to do the very best for the Washington Wizards. And that means sometimes you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And so, I'm not afraid to make big changes. I'm not afraid for big swings. That's because I have a great support staff with me. All the people that put input into our decisions. And I think we've come up with some pretty good solutions. We got to do better. We're going to keep moving forward, and there's going to be more change as we try to get better and better. But those aren't challenges that I look at that make you panic. I've been doing this 3 years. We don't panic. We just got to keep moving and be methodical about what we do. I appreciate all the free advice that I hear, but I can't really listen to it versus what we know intuitively to do.
Do you think big changes are necessary after missing the play-in and the playoffs this year? Or how do you
Well, I think when you miss the playoffs, there's always changes that need to be made. If it's get better talent or be a little bit more patient, sometimes it's just the way what we do day to day. Maybe there's some tweaks we can do, but certainly you always want to get better. I don't think you can ever stay the same, Matt.
Thank you.
Dave?
Hey, Tommy, we kind of talked about this, but you know so much about every player when you bring them here, you assemble a team. But what did you learn about certain players? Does anything stick out where you say, wow, I didn't know so-and-so was like that off the court, or I didn't know he could do that or do that well? Or are there things that you can share that were kind of aha moments?
When we acquired Kristaps, you know a player from afar. I knew Kristaps when he was a young man in Sevilla. He was the same height, but he only weighed about 180 pounds back then. To see him now, fast forward at 26, he's really a funny guy, but he's a very good leader. And he's probably more skilled than anybody in the league gives him talent for. And I'm excited about that. That's a big aha moment for us to see him, the 17 straight, we held him out of one game, but when he's healthy, he's out there. He's a big impact player at both ends. Better shot blocker than we thought. I think getting Kyle Kuzma, getting Pope, those guys weren't with us a year ago, and they both started, and they were both tremendous. And their playoff experience that they brought, when they shed that wisdom on to everybody else, I think it was really empowering. And they're great co-pilots with some of the, the leaders that we have of this team. I consider those guys now to be leaders. A big aha moment for us. We were sizing Corey Kissburg up for go-go jerseys in camp and wondering if we could get him minutes this year. And then he ends up starting for us and did a hell of a job. Set some rookie records here. I think he's got a great future. And I think he's more than just a three-point shooter and a floor spacer. And that's our challenge to him, is to come back better. Just with those guys right there was pretty special. Getting Rui back and watching him expand his game, and now he's a three-point threat. I think that was a big aha moment. Watching Denny's development with the ball, taking the challenge every night of guarding the other teams. Some of the better offensive players in the league, Denny had to guard, and he had to figure it out. And he's going to continue to get better. But sometimes the only way you get better is you got to look at the film. And box scores indict, but video convicts. You see Denny, and he gives refs a lot of advice every night. And I think the more he watches himself, he sees, hey, these refs actually were probably right. That probably was a foul. So he's got to learn that. But aha moment for us was watching him take those challenges on. My big aha moment actually yesterday is that Denny actually does some rapping on the side. He calls himself the Big Dreidel. So that was a big aha moment for me, Dave.
Neil?
Hey, Tommy, good afternoon. last we heard from Brad, he was hoping to get the screws out of his wrist, maybe in a weekish time. I guess, has there been any change to that? And is the plan for him to just continue rehabbing, with the Monumental basketball medical team?
Yeah, certainly. It's later this month. I think it's like the 19th, 20th. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but that's when rehab begins. He's been able to strengthen the other parts of his body, but that wrist, he's not able to do anything with. So the first thing when the cast comes off is you start from ground zero. And fortunately, it's his left hand. Fortunately, it's 100% healthy. The pins pop out and life begins. And one thing I've marveled at, been with Bradley since day one. Watched him go through a lot of different injuries and come back, and time again, he knows his body better than anybody, and he's one of the fastest healers I've ever been around. This season, if you look across the league, I think the top 25 players have played in less than 75% of their games. A lot of this stuff's predictable, folks. We went through 3 seasons crammed into 18 months. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be overuse. There's going to be exhaustion, all those things. But we're still able and blessed to be in the NBA to play these games. That injury with Bradley stunk. He got run over, took a charge. That's why I told him it's what you get for playing defense. He took a charge in Memphis. That ligament was gone. And, we were hoping somehow he could play, but by trade deadline, we knew it was highly unlikely he was going to have surgery. We had to move forward. That made that trade a lot easier, certainly at trade deadline. But, again, you got to always monitor the marketplace and being able to acquire talent. That talent that we acquired next season will pay dividends playing with Bradley. I would have rather had Bradley healthy all season long. And then certainly, you're talking about a guy who led the league in scoring pretty much all of last year, was all NBA last year. You come in, you get injured. Well, in the NBA, that minimizes you. In the NBA, you almost don't exist once you're hurt. I see stuff about Bradley, and I kind of wonder, my goodness, are we talking about the same player? He's a special player, one of the best in his position in the NBA. I was with Team USA last summer in Las Vegas when he was playing for them. And, I sat with Coach Pop at dinner. He just couldn't rave enough about the leader that Bradley was, how selfless he was, and all the things that he was about, and how important he was going to be to that team. And COVID knocked him off that team, but that didn't change the stuff that, Pop listed as stuff that I knew about Bradley, and I know he'll do that again for us in the future. Sat with him yesterday, exit interview wise. He's really excited about the opportunity here in DC to get better and what we've done. And the future's there. It's his decision in July, but I feel comfortable that this is a place for him. And I think he's excited about being back here. That surgery is behind us. The rehab's in front of us, and he'll be here. He and his wife have another baby. That's a fantastic thing. And I really think this summer for him is a bit of about, it's not a revenge tour or anything like that, but I think he wants to reassert, hey, I'm one of the top players in the league. And the only way you do that is come back, results, put up wins. And I think that's something, the challenge he's relishing.
And for Kyle, I believe he might be extension eligible at some point during this offseason. I guess, is that something that you guys are curious and engaging with him on?
We leave that for free agency and in July, and it certainly is. There's a couple of people extension eligible. We'll look at everything, what's best for the Wizards, what's best. If there's a good deal with any of these guys, I think we look at it. But Kyle he was a tremendous talent. I don't consider him injury prone. 16 games this year. I think that's starting to be kind of more normal in the NBA when you get below the 70 games. It used to be, hey, it's a lot of injuries. But I think Kyle's a durable player. I think he's a tremendous talent at both ends of the floor. He's a good leader, and certainly somebody we look forward to having back next season and beyond. But, a lot of those things just take care of themselves as we get into free agency and getting into past the draft, past free agency and what's best. We extended Gaff at the beginning of this season, as the season was starting. So there's not a shot clock on that. We'll just look and see what's best for the Wizards, what's best for those players.
And
his agent or something?
Hey, well, if he's going to give me a piece, we'll work that out. And I understand that this decision might be still far in the future. Not sure when the next time we'll get a chance to chat with you. For Denny, do you think that there's any chance that he would play Summer League, or because of his, Eurobasket, kind of obligations, is that kind of not feasible?
If you follow the Wizards, I'm a very big supporter of players playing for their national team. He actually has to do a World Cup qualifying segment this summer and for Eurobasket with Israel. And I think FIBA games, especially World Cup, especially Eurobasket, the level of competition in those games, the amount of fanfare, everything, those are high level games. And I believe he'll get more out of that. And being one of the key players for Israel will give him the kind of experience, the kind of pressure we want him to have that probably Summer League doesn't exist there. We have other people we want to look at for Summer League. I think Denny will be tremendous in those competitions. And I know his coaching staff with the Israeli team will have great connection with those guys. I look forward to working with them. I'm really excited for his opportunity to be in those competitions.
Wayne.
Thanks, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing? My first question for you is, when you look at your roster now and for the future, what identity are you hoping to build here with the Wizards?
Well, certainly we want to continue to build on. We're an exciting team. We're an up-tempo team. We're a team that, we can score. But I would add to that we have a defensive mindset. And that's something that doesn't exist right now, because if it did, we wouldn't be talking about how we have to get better. But everybody can get better. And I think defensive mindset, that's something that Wes, his staff, I know that's a big area of focus for them moving forward. It's something they're comfortable with. And, I think there's really some pretty good opportunities to get better just by time equity, just by repetition. So, our identity, prior to this season coming in, is a lot different at the end of the season. So I hesitate to give you what we're going to look like next year without the draft, without free agency, without trade season, everything else. So maybe we can revisit this in October.
And lastly, what were some positives from the team that stood out to you this year that you would hope you can just build off for next?
Yeah, I think besides all the things that I've already said, I think just the spirit of this team, especially at the end of the year, how much that group came together, supported each other. We had some guys, Rui missed a big chunk of time. Thomas Bryant missed a big chunk of time. We got new players come in. We had players go out. We had COVID happen. We had injury happen. We had tough losses. And they all stuck together. And I think that's a sign of we're getting closer to the roster we envision, where you have a great deal of versatility, a great deal of diversity in terms of experience in the NBA, experiences in life, and the ability for all those guys to come together to unite and go out and try to play games every night in the NBA, win games every night. I see that in this group.
Zach.
Hey, Tommy, you touched on this earlier, but how impactful is Rui's development of the three-pointer for him going forward and also for the team?
Well, it's certainly to have another floor spacer, another three-point threat is tremendous for what we're trying to do. We need to shoot more threes next year. We need to make more threes next year. That's something that's also a big emphasis this summer. And Rui asserted himself in that area. I think the things, I can't worry about what we weren't able to do, but we were able to sneak some lineups out where we had Danny, Rui, and Kuz out there, and their ability to switch and guard multiple positions was great. I'd seen Porzingis and Gafford play together for a small amount of time. It just gives you so many more options. But with Rui, I think he's a great blend player. I think his defense will be much improved next year. One thing I can really compliment him on is very, very seldom do you see somebody miss training camp, miss preseason, and come back and have a productive year. And especially once he kicked the minutes restriction and was able to play, especially as a starter, his numbers, that's more in line with what we envisioned for him. And that three-point line certainly became his friend, and he embraced it. And I expect him to continue to be a three-point threat next season. That's only going to help the Wizards offense. Now we need him to work on his defense like everybody else. And I think he'll be an excellent two-way player who can play multiple positions.
Thank you.
You're on.
Hi, Tommy. On the subject of Denny, what did you see from his playmaking ability? If you can break it down a little bit, pick and rolls, transition, and how much do you think he'll be able to have the ball, usage as high as it was with, all the players coming back?
Well, that's going to be determined by him. He's going to have to come into training camp and carve out his role, carve out his minutes by production. This year, it's a work in progress. I was very impressed. He came up still You know, his left hand has more fingerprints on it than his right hand. He never uses his left. He's going to have to go left more. He's going to have to cut some turnovers down. But as his usage went up, turnovers, that's natural. I give him a hard time because I know how good he can be. I think put him in DHOs, making him a secondary playmaker. I saw him bring the ball up this year and be able to initiate the offense. Those are things he wasn't doing a year ago. We know he's far more capable of more with that, but you got to take it slow. But to tell him, hey, you got to come into camp and be ready to grab those minutes, I think it's a challenge to him to be ready on day one, to come in and be a more mature player in year 3 than you were in year 2, and be able to really accept your role. And a couple other players in our exit meetings, you know, my message to them was real simple. Just be great at the things you're good at. Don't try to work on things that we're not going to ask you to do. Really work on, you know, where your shots are going to come from, you know, who we need you to defend. These are your responsibilities this summer. You know, be great at the things you're good at. And I think Danny took that on yesterday.
Christos?
Hello, Mr. Sheppard. Thank you for your time, first of all. Speaking about the second half of the season and the chemistry that the team have, what did you see about the team chemistry-wise?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think at the end of the season, we saw, okay, this is going to be our team. And Bradley, even when he was injured, was with us on several trips, was at all our home games. I think those guys genuinely pull for each other. I think when you do go through adversity, you come out on the other side, you got a chance to get even tighter. And I think that can only help us in the future.
And speaking about the next season, the potential this team have, the foundation that you have from this season to next season, what is the priority for you during the off season? What would you like to add? What would you like to improve in this team?
As I mentioned several times previous in this call, you know, we got to get better in the backcourt. We need some more talent acquisition. We'll plan to have an excellent draft, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chase, did you have another question?
Yes. Will Corey Kissburg be playing in the summer league?
You know, we're looking at that. He'll definitely be in the camp, but I know what Corey can do. We have a lot of players we want to look at. We had, you know, Jordan Shackle, some of our go-go players, whoever we draft. We're going to look at a lot of people. And when we know what Corey can do, we can kind of safely set that to the side and look at more people. You know, I'm a big fan of Summer League, don't get me wrong, but sometimes there's opportunities to look at people that you wouldn't otherwise have. If we want to bring them to camp, we want to do 2 ways. We want to do exhibit 10s. Do we want to give them a free agent contract? Those kinds of things present themselves in Summer League. And I want to make sure we have plenty of roster spots and shots available for that. And it might dissuade some people coming here if they know Corey's going to be on a Summer League team. They know they're not going to get a lot of looks. So, you know, I trust the work that Corey puts in. I know where he's going to be. He's going to be with our people an awful lot this summer. And I have full confidence in him coming in training camp ready to go.
And when it comes to Beal's decision, you brought it up earlier, just the timeline of that, given how much it could affect the rest of your offseason, is it important to you to kind of know sooner than later so you can operate accordingly?
Yeah, it is. But, you know, the way that the NBA calendar is set up, we can't do anything earlier than July 1. I can just go off of 10 years of relationship with him, and I think he feels comfortable here. We certainly feel comfortable with him here. It's a good fit. So you can't do anything before July 1. That would be tampering, right? That doesn't happen in the NBA. So I just wait, and we'll get together and have those conversations at the right time. But I feel every indication he's given me that he wants to be here moving forward. And, you know, I stick to the 10 years of confidence that I have in the relationship that we've had. It's a lot of time, a lot of equity, a lot of conversations. I feel we've shown that this is a place that we can build around him. And I think he has shown to the community here when he's healthy, he's one of the best players at his position. So those are hard to come by.
Thanks, Tommy.
You're welcome.
And I think that's it, Tommy. Thank you for your time.
I really, before I jump off here, I just want to, it was a tough one for me yesterday, getting the news. Lost a dear friend. We lost several people in the last few days. And I just want to say goodbye, say hello to Wayne Cooper's family. Mr. Wayne Cooper, one of the true gentlemen in this business, dear friend. Losing him, that was really a tough shot, and certainly losing Gene Shue, Tom Young, Those are members of our basketball family. And Gene, he was a mentor to me. He was a fantastic coach, obviously here in Philly, but just a wealth of talent. And Tom Young was just, Tom Young, Gene Shue put Maryland basketball on the map. And those are two people I revere for their wisdom, what they were able to do with us. Wes coached with Tom, with Eddie Jordan. Tom took Eddie to the Final Four at Rutgers. But between Coop and those two guys, it's just awful to think of the people we're losing. And obviously my sympathies, condolences to the Haskins family for their loss as well. It's been difficult, and I just want to suggest to everybody, maybe call somebody you hadn't talked to in a long time, hug your loved ones, and, let's try to make sure people know we love them before we have to say goodbye without a chance to say goodbye. So with that, I bid you adieu. Thank you for your coverage this year.